Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
What I love about her, aside from massive creativity, is that when you ask a question, she has the answer. And we've got questions about design. I have lots of questions. She's an amazing interior designer. She's the person behind Livable Luxury. And she joins us once again. Nicole Fisher's on the program. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very well, very well. Learned a lot from you in the times that we've gotten together. And you've inspired because I think right out of the gate, I'd like to jump to an email that we got from Chloe, is in Searsport, Maine. Ready for the question?
Okay, let's do
All
it.
right. She says, I want to redo my living room, which seems somewhat dark. I'm thinking lighter colors. What's popular now?
What's popular now are definitely mixing textures. So if you are feeling like you want lighter, that's fine. But how to not make it look super generic is by taking tones of the same lightness and then mixing different types of textures. So you're going to want, boucles and your cottons and your leather. So I would suggest doing something that combines different elements of fabrics. But light dark is never an issue of what's trending or in right now. We like to always go for how you want to feel. And it sounds like you want that room to be lighter. So do that and lean into it and just work with different textures.
Can you give us some examples of textures? So I'm trying to get visuals of that. Because I feel the textures have always been around. You have a couch, it's got a texture. You have maybe a piece of art. I actually have one that it's huge, by the way, and it's got different panels of sort of like glass, but it's all placed on a fabric, a rough kind of white texture, and then there's a big wood brown frame around it. Again, it's huge, but there's all different textures going on there. So when you talk about textures in a living room, what are some examples of different things that we could do?
So when I say texture, it's about how it really is about how it feels. So you want some things that are maybe a little bit more smooth. Um, for example, like a leather. Leather is smooth. It is like often cold to the touch, a little bit slippery. A boucle is a reminiscent of like a warm, nubby throw blanket. So that feels a little bit more sweatery. So and then we're looking at maybe a chenille could be, or a velvet is, somewhere in between. You almost want to differentiate your piles. So we're looking at how thick something is, how your hand can kind of get lost in the fabric a bit. And that
Hmm.
adds to the whole texture component.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm seeing it now. Carpeting is texture. It's all
Correct.
there.
Yeah.
Why is texture having more of a moment?
Texture's having a moment because it just adds some visual interest. There is in the past, and really, you know, what people are more comfortable with is what they see all the time. And this consistency of just doing like a linen or just doing a velvet has kind of just been the name of the game throughout every store, every catalog, that anyone would walk into a store and just purchase it. What I want to do is make you more comfortable with different types of fabric, different types of texture, because that adds visual interest to your space. And it doesn't feel like you just went into a store and bought something off the floor.
Hmm. The challenge here is putting it all together. That's
Right.
yeah, that's where you come in. Because the
That's where
rest
I
of
come
us,
in.
yeah, I mean, I can just walk in, insert name of store, many different ones, home goods,
Yeah.
whatever. And I'll take this, I'll take this, I'll take this. But it's like shopping in the grocery store. Now you come home. Now it's time to make something. That's where I stop. I don't cook, so just using that analogy, I
Yep.
could here you go, Nicole. I got everything.
All the ingredients.
Make something out of it if you could. Has that happened to you where you have clients provide you with things? I've got this, I've got that. I have it. What can we do with that? That's got to
Yeah.
be kind of a challenge for you.
Absolutely. I mean, we used to allow it much more than we do now. And what would happen is it would dictate a lot of the creativity and a lot of like, the overall look and feel of the space. So
Mm.
unless it's like a family heirloom or, something you just cannot live without, then I tell you to let us take the space as a whole. Let us come to you with a new, fresh vision for it. And then we can, work backwards and see if those pieces can fit.
Have you ever taken one of those heirlooms or those items, that one item that somebody says, whatever you do, Nicole, we have to include this. And have you taken it and whatever the item is and repurposed it or changed its original makeup to make it part of the design?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes a fresh stain or
Mm.
different legs or reupholstery or taking an old beat up table that has a beautiful base and we just put like a stone top on it. Wow, all of a sudden that's a brand new interesting table. We do that all the time and we do that with vintage. So
Mm.
it's kind of has the same vibe.
You have a thing for vintage, don't you?
I do, yeah.
Mm. What do you like? What do you like? An old soul?
100%, yes.
Yeah. Mm. What kind of music do you listen to?
It depends what kind of mood I'm in. I love more poppy music.
Hmm.
And then I love like jazz, really. Frank Sinatra, I love musicals. I'm a Gemini. There's a lot of personalities going on here.
Ah, I'm not surprised. Um, with that, you say Frank Sinatra. Do you have an affinity for design from that period, like call it the 60s?
I love what's amazing about vintage is that they all have some element of a story and some element of history. And that is like the
Mm.
ethos of like really what we do. I'm not trying to strip everything away. I'm not trying to take away a feeling or an emotion or, a time period. I'm trying to emphasize it. I'm trying to bring it to today. So we do a ton of work with historic homes, for example. I don't want to take away the moldings. I don't want to take away the railings and we try to use as much of this as possible so that the piece at the end of the day has a story that remains true to it throughout the project.
I love looking at different periods. Like if you even just said 60s, right? Just the furniture, the audio components, whatever it is. And interestingly, what's big now? Vinyl,
Yep.
record players, call them turntables, whatever you want to call them. But that's back. And it's when you look at those pieces, which were the focus of the living room, and they were huge, they're much bigger, but I see them in my mind with certain dials on them, and then even the cloth for the speaker, that had a very distinctive design. But I look at it now and I think it's cool. Back in the day, I looked at it and I'm like, man, that's old. Look at that crap. I
I
haven't
know we didn't appreciate it.
didn't appreciate it. Yeah. And even, I think of even being a kid, and a lot of that stuff was in my aunt's house. And when she wasn't around, and of course, I always loved music and wanted to be a DJ. Like I would just open up the top and like, all right, I'm gonna mess with this record player, and it's so old, but there is something about it. I don't know, the energy. There's like a vibe that comes from that stuff from the '60s and the '70s. Personally, like when we got to the '80s, all good, but it was kind of cheesy. That's my opinion. It didn't have that like I'm trying to find the word, but that like pop, it was more of, 80s was certain colors. Then you got into the early 90s and that like seafoamy kind of colors and things like that. Is there one time period that you would say in terms of design, interior design, where you say, yeah, I like that one. That's popular. And it could even go back to, 40s or before. Is there one thing that you look at the moment? I know it could be a moving target that resonates with you.
Yeah. I mean, I also love the 60s, and the 70s. I think there was such there was such an influx of new materials being used at that time, different ways to use those materials. And what's cool about repurposing them today is we're able to continue that pattern in a way. We're able to, use them in different ways, not the way that they were probably made to
Hmm.
be used or intended to be used, but the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So we should, lean into how we want to use it for our personal selves. And, there's nothing wrong with using things for a different purpose. And there's just something so special about being able to do that when it's a vintage piece.
Is it sort of like making what was old new again?
Yeah, totally.
Like taking a certain fabric, certain colors from insert time period, 60s, 70s, whatever, and making it modern, but it's still got the vibe, the old school vibe. It could be the legs on a table or a chair.
Yep.
I visualize, from those periods, they started here and they went very thin. The first
Yep.
thing pops in my mind. You know what I want to ask you about? We got together last time talking about a project and presentation that you were working on. What's the status of that?
So we presented our project. Clients were very thrilled. Um, Next, we go into our purchasing side, but in order to get to our purchasing, we have to do all of our pricing, send that off to the client, let them see all this in itemized list, and then ask them to write a big check for it.
Gotcha. Reset this. Reset this. What? Somebody's got paid for it.
Somebody's got to pay for it.
Tell me about that project again.
Yeah, so this project is in Westchester County. This is a big, beautiful, historic home, and it has been lovingly maintained, but does not function for a family of five that is moving in there. So my client just purchased the home, and our job is to revive the house to work for a young family of five. So what does that mean? That means new kitchen.
Hmm.
That means upgraded, expanded spaces for the kids to be in, uh, upgraded and expanded master bathroom. Um, a lot of the plumbing, electrical, those things haven't been touched in a while. So we do have a lot of that, maybe not so fun things to do behind the wall. But if if we're able to kind of see it from almost studs through, we're able to position where our lights are going, where our plumbing is going,
Hmm.
and kind of make it as custom as possible without destroying any of the historic elements that are in the house.
Is that a big challenge?
Yeah, often
Hmm.
it's extremely challenging. Things were made much different than they are now. But it's also fascinating. You open some of these walls of the house built in, the 20s or before. Sometimes you find newspapers stuffed in instead of insulation.
Like a time
Sometimes
capsule.
you totally, electric there it's called knob and tube. That was done the way that lights went all the way down to your breaker panel. It's done differently now. It's more safe, up
How
to
do you
code.
mean? What went down to the breaker panel?
So
And
connecting
by the way, it
where
wasn't a breaker panel, it was a fuse panel.
fuse panel,
Right. I can't
connecting
imagine every
how
time, the fuse blows, you got to unscrew them, put one in there as opposed to flipping a switch. But how do you
exactly.
mean? What was going down there?
Yeah, so if you have a light on the first floor, for example, that the wire giving that electricity would go all the way down to the panel. Now, as you said, it's a switch. Before, it was connected with knob and tube. That is now illegal. So if you're doing any kind of renovation and an inspector goes and sees that, you have to replace everything.
Ooh,
Yeah.
wow.
So these things kind of just become a ripple effect with, how much we want to touch, how much is the budget, how much time do we have? Um, Luckily for this job, this is becoming a full encompassing type of project. You saw in our last presentation, like we're really taking everything soup to nuts. So the clients anticipate some, the level of electrical work that has to get done, the level of plumbing work that has to get done, but it's significant. And, it's unavoidable when you find in a historic home, really, that you're going to find something like that. So
Hmm.
you need the stomach for it.
Yeah. Well, you should be prepared when you buy a home like that.
Yeah,
Same thing with the plumbing. Some of the piping that they used back in the day, might not be up to code, asbestos, that kind of stuff.
exactly. Yep. That
Mm,
used to be done with copper pipes. Now everything is plastic.
plastic, right? Hmm. Is there, out of this entire project, are there a couple of things that you really love? Like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. I'm sure you love it all, like, but a few things that stand out, like, if they um, write the check, can't wait to do that. That room, that piece, whatever it is. What's
Yeah.
standing out for you?
At this project, I would say the kitchen and the dining room are just wow moments. I love a dining room because, especially in this house, it's the first thing you see when you walk through the door.
Mm,
Um, they entertain a lot, like weekly. So it's going to get a lot of eyeballs on it. And I just love giving people a sense of awe when they walk into a room. And that's certainly going to give it to them.
mm. What did they tell you
About
what they wanted? How did they
mm,
verbalize it? What did they say? Well, we kind of like this, we like that. What kind of feedback did you get initially that set you on the path to the design?
um, they wanted a wow house. They wanted it to be over the top. Um, what's really helpful for me is if they can pinpoint a project of mine that's already on my portfolio and they can tell me this one I love, or this bathroom I love, or I hate this because it's all very telling to me. And the things that they loved about this, another particular project of mine, was the unexpected use of like wallpaper on a ceiling in one of the rooms, or the bold stone that we used in the kitchen,
Mm,
um, or the unlacquered brass that we used on the in the bar. All of those things tell me they like glamour, they like glitz, they liked it to be a little bit over the top and kind of wow when you walk into a room.
got it. So it's basically from them pointing out those features and other projects that got you into the zone. You're like, all
Yeah.
right, now I know. Now I know what they're thinking. Now I know what I'm working with here. And then you have to take their home and translate some of those, either the similar idea or completely different one, but you've got the wow factor.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mm,
that the home is very, very traditional. So that also plays a giant piece in what we're doing. It has to make sense there. It's going to look amazing and cool, but there has to be some pieces that give you a traditional vibe. There has to be some, shapes in the chairs that give you that traditional vibe, or, even vintage pieces. But now I'm going to lean more toward early 1900s because those are more wood, inlaid carving details that you would probably see in a house like this. So we want elements of those things to make this the wow moment all the more cool, but makes sense.
It's almost like companies that have to stay true to their brand. McDonald's,
Yep.
they're not selling pizza, they're selling hamburgers. So when you take a look at this house, what's going in it, since it's a classic, older, very older home, whatever you put in there has to fit its umbrella brand, whatever it is. But
Yep.
I have to imagine that's got to be a bit of a challenge for you, where anybody could just say, all right, they want glitz, they want glam, they want over the top, no problemo, and it's
Yeah.
done. But it's going to look ridiculous in a house from the turn of the century. So that
Totally.
that's got to be a
Absolutely.
challenge for you to blend the two.
Yeah, it is, but that's just what we do best, really. That's why you have someone like me. That's
Mm,
why you hire someone who's comfortable with the historic element of, giving you a fully executed project. Someone who doesn't shy away from things like that because it could be done really cheesy or it could be done really tacky, and you need someone who's able to balance that bit.
mm. To make it elegant.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Um, when you talk about the dining room, what's the one piece that stands out in this project for you?
Oh my gosh, we have this dining room table that is um, about 12 feet long. It's got these more Grecian column legs, and it is covered in like stainless steel. It's got a wood top, and all the edges of it are covered in steel. The frame and the architecture of the table is so traditional, but the materials used are really modern and contemporary. So it's a perfect example of that like balance and not something you would totally expect in there. And it's matched with really traditional chairs.
Hmm. Right away, I have a picture in my mind of this table. And
I'm gonna send it to you.
oh, yeah. Well, let me see if, my intuition is serving me. Um, Around the edge of the table, going all
Yep.
around it, we're talking about metal, right? Do you have um, finishing touches along it? Call it, adornments. I don't want to say rivets, but some kind of, it's not just metal going all the way around it. Do you have
Yeah.
something like that going on?
Yeah, there's a little band of the metal. The whole table is kind of like this metal and wood. And the wood is really as a light finish on the wood, so it's a nice balance with the metal. It's not like this striking, sharp, polished metal that you're looking at. It's got a little bit of brushing to it. But yes, it has that banding on the sides.
All custom?
This is not.
Oh,
This is
really?
not custom. This is something we found, and I was like, yes.
Wow. Wow. So where do you get something like that?
That is one of our showroom vendors. I'd seen the table in wood before, and I was like, "Oh, that's great." And then one of my girls was like, "Did you see this finish in this table?" I said, "No," and I was blown away. And it was just the thing that we needed for the room.
Is it? I'm trying to get in your head for when you do these projects. When you find these pieces, is it like you know it when you know it? Like when you see it's like,
100%. Yeah.
hmm, wow.
When it's
Wow.
right, it's done. And then I don't like think about it anymore. That's it. We have to move on. Where I don't second guess myself. I don't question kind of what we're doing. Um, the only time we'll like him and haw or something if it's just not that perfect piece. But when it is, done.
When you work on a project, do you often see it done? Like you just have a thought and it's like, oh, all right, that's going there. Something like that. I got it. You just see it. I know it. All right, got that room done. You see the vision in advance. Does that
Yeah,
happen?
absolutely. I think
Hmm.
that's part of like the skill. Being able to see that those things laid out on the table come to life in your brain.
There's a reason I ask that because I do marketing, right? And that happens for me. Like I'll see it. Like say, it could be a sanitation company wants to do a commercial involving their dumpsters. What are you going to do with that? You want to make it interesting. Bam. I already see it. I already got it. Yeah, we're good to go.
Yep.
Let me know when here's the storyboard. Let me know when you want to start. I've already seen it. Could be piece of audio, whatever. It's in my head. It's playing. All right. That doesn't happen all the time. Sometimes you have to work on it and kind of like a piece of clay, work your way through it. But then there's those other times where it's like, I see it, it's done. And like you said, it's almost like manifesting. They say when you manifest something and you believe in it, you just let it go. You release it. All right, that's it. That's the way it is. Now, granted,
Yep.
if a client says, "Nah, I want to tweak it here," and want to, of course. But for the
Yep.
most part, if somebody's trusting you, it's like I got this. I got it. Don't worry about it. We're good. We're good. It's exciting, isn't it, to be creative?
It is exciting. It's what keeps me getting up every day, keeps me keeping this, stressful job going because it is stressful. But when you see that finished product and you like from your brain to reality, it's
Yeah.
like the greatest gift ever.
Like birthing a baby. You gave birth to it. And also seeing the response from the client,
Yeah,
that's got to feel good too.
totally.
Best way to find you. How do we do that, Nicole?
bnrinteriors.com or our Instagram, bnrinteriors.
Good luck with this project. Looking forward to hearing the feedback from the client and looking forward next time we get together.
Absolutely. Talk soon.
Thanks. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.